China isn't afraid of the United States, and it's ready to push back hard. That was the message sent loud and clear by Hu Xijin, a veteran Chinese journalist and former editor-in-chief of Global Times, one of the Chinese Communist Party's main media outlets. Just hours after President Donald Trump threatened to impose an additional 100% tariff on Chinese goods on the 10th of October 2025, Hu fired back on Weibo, China's top social media platform. China isn't scared of Washington's tantrums. We've seen this before, and we're ready for escalation. China's response wasn't just talk. Hu referenced a series of recent U.S. sanctions, adding 15 Chinese companies to the Commerce Department's blacklist, imposing new sanctions on Chinese oil refineries importing Iranian crude. Then he asked, shouldn't China teach the United States a lesson? For decades, Washington's sanctions have been one-sided. Other countries usually just accept them. But this time, China didn't flinch. Instead, Beijing hit back by restricting exports of rare earth metals and cutting purchases of U.S. soybeans, a critical pain point for American farmers. The result? Washington was caught off guard and furious. On the 2nd of April 2025, Trump tweeted, "Reciprocal Tariffs Day in America." Hours later, standing in the White House Rose Garden, he held up a large board titled, "Reciprocal Tariffs." The idea was simple. If you charge us 10% on our cars, we'll charge you 10% on yours. But in Trump's chart, China was listed as charging 67% tariffs on American goods, a number that was completely false. The U.S. then announced a 34% tariff on Chinese imports, a massive increase. Most countries would have stepped back, but not China. Just 48 hours later, Beijing announced it would match those tariffs 34% on U.S. products, effective April 10. One of the biggest American casualties? Soybeans. In 2024, U.S. soybean exports to China were worth $12.6 billion. Today, zero. Since May 2025, Beijing hasn't bought a single ton of American soybeans. For decades, U.S. soybean farming was built around Chinese demand. China buys over 60% of the world's traded soybeans, mainly to feed 400+ million pigs, the backbone of Chinese meat production. By cutting off purchases, Beijing effectively choked a key pillar of U.S. agriculture. American farmers in states like Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Indiana, all key Republican strongholds, suddenly found themselves with no buyers, crashing prices, and mounting debt. Beijing isn't panicking. It already shifted purchases to Brazil and Argentina, built a strategic reserve of 44 million metric tons of soybeans. Trump, on the other hand, faces a political time bomb. These same Midwestern farmers were a crucial part of his base. Now, they're angry and blaming the trade war for their losses. To calm them down, Trump promised billions in subsidies. But that's just a temporary band-aid, not a solution. And Congress approval? Far from guaranteed, especially amid political gridlock. This isn't just about soybeans. In the first 7 months of the year, U.S. agricultural exports to China fell 53% compared to last year. Meanwhile, Beijing is playing a long game, diversifying supply chains, investing in new infrastructure in Brazil and Argentina, reducing dependence on any single U.S. export. China views the U.S. as an unreliable supplier, not just for soybeans, but also for tech components like semiconductors and energy resources. From Beijing's perspective, why should we depend on a country that can cut us off at any moment? The political cost for Trump is growing. These agricultural states aren't just symbolic, they're electoral battleground. Harry Broadman, a former U.S. trade official, explained it well. China wants farmers to point at Trump and say, "This man is the reason we're suffering." The Chinese strategy seems to be working. Agricultural lobby groups, once Trump's allies, are now flooding Washington with complaints. And Beijing? Calm, confident, patient. While soybeans hurt America's farmers, rare earth metals threaten America's industries. China controls over 70% of the world's supply, crucial for smartphones, electric cars, military technology. Beijing signaled it could tighten exports, sending shockwaves through Silicon Valley and the Pentagon alike. Trump threatened a 100% additional tariff on Chinese imports starting November 1. But instead of backing down, China dug in deeper. This trade war isn't a shouting match, it's a strategic chess game. And right now, China seems comfortable playing the long game. Trump is dealing with angry farmers, political backlash, and an approaching election season. China is holding powerful economic cards, and it knows it. Will Trump's aggressive trade strategy push the U.S. toward an even bigger confrontation with China, maybe even a military one before his term ends? This is Cyrus Vault. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.